Hi, Claire. Welcome. I am here with Claire Pfarr from Envision Health. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Brittany Quemby, and I am the Marketing Director for Healthcare Scene and HITMIC. And we are so glad to have Claire with us today. We'll dive into what we're going to talk about in a little bit. But Claire, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your role at Envision Health?
Absolutely. So again, my name is Claire Pfarr. I think I always enjoy any opportunity to talk to the HITMIC community and connect with the HITMIC community. So hi, HITMIC community. I actually am very new to Envision Health. I actually just started with Envision Health a few months ago. I think I just hit 90 days. And this is actually kind of my first foray into being on the agency / consulting side of the marketing world. Previously, I spent most of my career being kind of the head of marketing at various organizations. So I've had the pleasure, and organizations kind of large and small. I started out in a really big organization, and I was not the head of marketing there, but I worked closely with the marketing team and saw how it functioned and all that. So it's been an interesting journey to see companies big and small and different models, and how healthcare operates and how they do their marketing.
Yeah, definitely. It's such a different aspect going from one to the other. I think we'll cover a little bit, about some of those things, big marketing teams and internal, external during our conversation. So that kind of leads into what our conversation will be about today. So today we're actually talking about marketing staffing and kind of the ever debate of having internal versus external marketing staff, and why it's so important to have a marketing person, at the leadership table. So we'll kind of dive in. You mentioned that you have been both on the agency and internal side of the fence. So what are some of the staffing models that you've seen that have worked well?
Well, so I've seen a handful of staffing models, and they can all work well. It just depends on if it's the right fit for your organization. So I've definitely seen kind of staffing models where a company will do all marketing in-house. And of course, in-house is also, it's even kind of a misnomer. I don't know if I've ever seen, because even when you're in-house, you might still need to hire the occasional freelancer. And then are you technically in-house anymore? Right. But sure. So I've seen, entirely in-house, meaning that they don't use any agencies. I've seen fully outsourced. So, somebody does not have marketing people on their staff. They just collaborate with an agency, and that is their marketing team. We frequently see, and by we, I mean kind of me in the agency world right now, hybrid models where, someone has maybe a marketing director or a chief marketing officer, or even, a marketing coordinator on the company side, and then, supplemental marketing through an agency. That's pretty common. And then for really, really, really big companies, you often see an in-house agency type model where you really essentially have an agency within the corporate umbrella. And those can all work, but, I think having an in-house agency is pretty unrealistic for most of the, I think the people in the HITMIC community are working for companies where that's not going to happen, and it really shouldn't.
Exactly. And I think, what we've seen too, given kind of the year that we've had, is a lot of marketing teams have either not necessarily shrunk, but a lot of the HITMIC people have small marketing teams. So they are looking for other ways to get the things that they need without maybe, it being internal. So they're either looking external or to other things to help, broaden that team.
For sure.
And, again, kind of to the other question, or to the first question, there are models that do work. Are there any, there are challenges obviously that come with staffing a marketing team internally versus externally. Have you seen what are some of the biggest challenges that you've seen, from both sides of the fence?
For sure. So I think the biggest challenge, if you have an internal marketing team, is getting all the pieces, right? Because, I've actually seen it done lots of times where, a company decides, all right, you know what, we're ready to really invest in marketing and we're ready to make a push. So we're going to spend big dollars and hire the marketing person who has, 30 years marketing experience, and they've worked at all these, maybe they've worked at a big consulting firm, or maybe they've, we want to put our money into this marketing person. So they bring on a marketing person, and that marketing person shows up on the scene and goes, yay, I'm so happy to be here. So where's my marketing automation tools and my graphic designer and my copywriter, and where's my PR agency, and and because we're like, a lot of us are in the startup space where companies actually don't know that, like, when you bring in the big marketing person, that big marketing person is used to having a whole lot of tools at their disposal and
Yes.
or a giant marketing budget to work with. And I think oftentimes it's like, wait, you were our giant marketing budget, right? Like, that's, what do you mean you need all these things now? And I've seen that happen like lots of times. And I think if you talk to anybody in the HitMIC community, you hear that story a lot. So that's kind of one of the issues, and you need that big picture thinker. You need the person who knows the industry and who knows marketing and can say, you need all these little pieces. But then, and maybe that person is really great at market research, and maybe that person is really great at industry knowledge, and they can help guide you. But then you need all the hands, that marketing person is going to look at you sideways when they have to scrub a contact list of 40,000 contacts, or, and they know how. They know the tools, they know what needs to be done, but it's like, and then you should ask yourself, do you really want to pay a big salary to have someone scrub a contact list? Like,
Exactly.
maybe that's not the best use of your time or money anyway. So that's one of the challenges, internally. So even internally, you probably kind of need the big thinker or the big experienced person, but you also need the manual, like, and I don't mean like the user guide, I mean like the manual, the hands. You need the hands too.
Yeah, exactly. Because you get that person in, you also want to keep that big person because you need them on your team. But those other maybe tactical things that, designing an image somewhere, or like you said, scrubbing a list, or, scheduling some tweets. Maybe they have done that before and know how to do it, but they may not have done it in a while, and are looking for those, like you said, those hands to actually physically do it for them.
That's huge. And also, but you can't underestimate how important that is. Like,
Right.
It's still really important for people to schedule tweets and scrub contact lists. Like, you can't not do that. You have to do
Exactly.
that.
Exactly.
That's every bit as important as the thinker.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that is a challenge.
And so, given that, and if you are in that position and you are either, the solo marketer, or you are that person who has been brought in to kind of strategically think about marketing, and you're, starting to look at where I can get those hands, or how do I get those hands, what is the first step, or, why would a company opt to outsource that marketing and PR versus trying to hire more people?
Yeah, so I mean, I think a lot of it is, when you outsource marketing and PR, you automatically get the hands and the brains in the doses that you need them. And I shouldn't, often the hands have brilliant brains. And in fact, the hands will develop the knowledge over time. So the person who is scheduling tweets and doing all those things, they are the brains of the future. They're going to be the one in 10, 15 years who gets brought on to be the person to bring in the overall strategy eventually. So you can't underestimate that value, for sure. And you kind of always want that flow moving through your organization, whether that is internal or external. I think, the challenge if you do outsource then is that you need to make sure that the agency is not you, right? So that is the problem. If you do it externally, they aren't you. They aren't passing you in the hallway. They don't hear, well, nobody's passing anybody in hallways anymore. So, maybe that statement was so 2019.
Yeah. I still love it because I'm literally only passing, I think, my husband. So
yeah. It's like, I mean, the cats know everything that's going on.
Yeah.
But the agency is not you, so you have to make sure that you spend the time to educate the agency and know that and help them understand your business and your product. So that's kind of like the balance that you walk.
Right. And you talk about some of those those challenges. So are there other challenges that or big challenges that you see with working with an agency, or what should someone who is maybe outsourcing to an agency be aware of as they start to work with someone?
I think the things that you need to be aware of when you're working with an agency is they need to understand you, and it's important to take that time and invest that time, as part of the onboarding process. When you decide that you're going to outsource to an agency, spend time with them. And the other important thing, and I cannot stress this enough, show the agency your ugly side.
Mm.
When you get a Christmas tree and you turn it so that the bare spot is in the back,
yeah.
Part of the agency's job is to turn you to the market so that your bare spot is in the back. But if they don't know where your bare spot is, they can't help you. So, we see a lot of kind of pitches like, we're going to go in and show this agency how great we are. That's great. And agencies want to celebrate your successes as much as you do. Like, we revel in your success. When our clients have a big win, we love that. We absolutely love it. But we need to know what's not going well, because it's important for positioning. It's important for PR. Share the ugly with your agency. They're part of your team. You're paying them. Like, you don't need to impress them. Right. They need to know everything.
Exactly. Like, kind of bear it all at the beginning, so then you can kind of work through those things as you kind of build that relationship. I think that's great advice.
And the agency can be a strategic partner for you too. So when they see those bare spots, they can say, you know what, one of our other clients had that problem too, and this is what they did. Right. Or, we've seen that before, trust us. And here's some things that we can do to help it. An agency can be a strategic partner for you in that way.
For sure. And so if we look at the other side of the coin, what are some of the reasons, maybe not everybody can outsource everything, but what would be some of the reasons why, our HITMA community or, companies in general might keep that marketing in-house?
So I think there's kind of two reasons that you would do that. One would be if you're too big, like, if you're big enough that you can have an internal team that covers everything. I think people underestimate how long it takes and what an effort it is to build a slide deck. We think of slide decks as being like, oh, it's a slide deck, it's a PowerPoint. My niece made one for her presentation in high school. It's an hour's worth of work. It's not. A well-done slide deck is surprisingly laborious and time-consuming. Right. And if you poll the HITMA community, I would actually love to see, like, hey, everybody, submit the ugliest slide deck you've ever seen and we'll have a contest. I mean, a good slide deck is hard. And not only is it hard, but it's time consuming. I've just gone on a slide deck tangent and I apologize.
No, but it's so true, because that is something that I think affects all of us. I mean, even when you're trying to build a slide deck that your reps are going to use, and then you have input from those reps and everybody else, and trying to build it to be, not only effective, but look nice, and, all of the components that you want of a slide deck. And then, the biggest thing that I find is like making sure that they use that new slide deck and they aren't changing things left, right, and center, where then you have a discombobulated slide deck that, they're using with a client. So it does take a lot of effort to not only build it, but then, continue to manage everybody who uses it as well.
For sure. And if you're big enough to if your company is big enough that you have the person who can identify this is the message the slide deck needs to convey, and also keep the sales team in check and say, nope, get rid of that slide, that's useless, plus the people who are actually kind of copywriters who can say, these are the words you need, plus the design people, whether that's true graphic design, like you need new images, or whether it's literally making animations work the way that they need to, layering things the way that they need to, arranging stuff on a slide the way that stuff to make it look right. If you have that staff, and it is more than one person, great. Maybe you do not need an agency. And and a full-time staff too. Like, so between PowerPoint decks, they need to have other things to do as well. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, if you're too small, if you're literally just getting started and you don't even know where to start, you know, hiring a strategic person internally to help you get there mm-hmm. is good. So, you know, if you've never dipped your toe in marketing, you don't want to like rush out and hire an agency right away, because you might not know what to look for in the right agency. You might pick the wrong agency. You know, you might want to hire somebody who can help you vet agencies and find the one that's right for you, because that's important. You know, you want a healthcare oriented agency for sure. You don't want to just, you know, oh, my cousin owns a restaurant and they hired this agency and they did a great job. You know, you don't want to misstep that way, because it can be a costly mistake.
For sure. And kind of off tangent quickly, I'm just curious about your opinion on this. So we do have a lot of people within the community who are those solo marketers, right? And they're trying to do everything on their own, but they might have in 2021 the budget to maybe bring someone on, maybe not outsource. So, you know, in the vein of keeping things in-house, what would be that next person that you would hire to bring in-house? Would it be, you know, a purely tactical person? You know, is it worthwhile to bring on a full content person? Just in your opinion, who would be that like kind of right-hand man?
It depends on who you are as the person that exists there. And you, as much as it's very, very appealing to hire a carbon copy of yourself, don't do that. Find the person who's not you and hire them. So if you're really strategic, if you are that person that got hired at your company because you have decades of experience in healthcare IT and you know the market, hire someone who knows tools and who is a taskmaster and who can keep you on track and can scrub contact lists, and hire that person. And if you got brought on because your organization bought a really nice marketing automation platform and they needed to know somebody who could run it, find somebody who knows the industry, like hire that person. Find somebody who has spent time in healthcare IT and can go, great, we have this platform, we have these tools, here's what we're going to do with them, here's how we're going to use them. Like this is the goal of all these tools. Yeah, they can do really cool things. Okay, we can automate emails. Yeah, we can stock who's been on our website. Cool. But like, what are you going to do with that? Who are you targeting and why? And build your personas and give that strategic element to it. So I guess the answer varies from person to person, but hire the person that's not you. That's
I love that answer. I think that's a great answer. And so, and then that kind of leads into a little bit about what we want to talk about in terms of, why does marketing have to have a seat at the leadership table? So, why is that so important for companies, especially in the healthcare industry, to have, a marketing person who is sitting, in tandem with the leadership team or at the leadership table?
Well, as it pertains to kind of, if you are that sole person, especially if you are that sole person in an organization who's kind of like running marketing, you need to have a seat at the leadership table, because if you're a single point of failure, if you're the only person in that organization who knows what's going on at any given time, it sounds so scary, single point of failure, but you are. I mean, I was taken out of commission unexpectedly a little over a year ago. I almost said I literally got hit by a bus. That's not true. But I did get into a car accident. People always use that, if so-and-so gets hit by a bus.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. But no, that can happen. Like if you're the sole person at your company that does marketing and you are out of commission unexpectedly, maybe you get COVID, like let's talk about something timely, like, and that can absolutely happen. If you don't have a seat at the leadership table, your entire organization is going to spin out of control, because, one thing that happens is that, and I think anybody in marketing can speak to this, you might report to the head of sales, or you might report to CRO, or you might report to chief operating officer, you might report to like chief commercial officer, depending on who you are. And your manager, your boss, knows what they have put on your plate. But in the meantime, the sales team has sent you 12 things. There's been, you know, an analyst needs you to do something for them, and then there's, you know, a publication made a request to you that you have to do, you know, you got to get back to them on something, you know, somebody needs you to build a training module about the product. So you have requests coming in from all over the organization, regardless of whom you report to. So the person that you report to might not actually know the number of things that are in the air and in flux at all times. So that's why you need to have a seat at the leadership table, so that if something happens to you, or you take a sick day, or even just so they know, you know, what's happening in the organization. And it's really twofold. It goes both ways. You know, you need to have a seat at the leadership table so that leadership knows what's going on, but you also need to have a seat at the leadership table so that you know what's going on. Because, and it comes back to seeing all the blemishes too. And you know, a prime example, one time I had an experience where, you know, I was working for months on an explainer video. We all know an explainer video is not a small project. You have to write a script, you got to do animations, you have to work with a company to do all the visuals, and, you know, make sure the flow is right, find a voiceover, you know, all this stuff. It's not a quick and easy app. So, you know, we worked through it. It spent months on this, and it looked really nice. We got this explainer video. It looked great. Presented it to the leadership team, and one of the products in that video was getting cut from the product suite.
Oh no.
Yep. So, and that had been in the planning for, like, you know, weeks, but it didn't filter down. You need a very clear two-way communication so that leadership knows what's on marketing's plate at any given time, but also marketing knows the absolute latest with what products are in the future, because you also don't want to release a new product and have it be the first time marketing has heard about it. They need to build a marketing plan leading up to that release. You can't just drop a new product and say, market it.
Here it is. Yeah. Because it'd be an epic fail, right?
Exactly. Like, marketing needs to know what products are getting canceled or sunset. They need to know what products are coming in a year, you know? And so without that seat at the leadership table, you might not know those things. So both leadership and marketing need to know what's going on the other side.
Totally. And, you know, I think your points are so valid. And, you know, you talked about kind of that communication, you know, having that leadership marketing, you know, close to leadership helps the communication not only downward, as you said, but also upward. You know, I found a lot of leadership teams that I have worked with in the past, you know, they kind of know what marketing does, but like they don't know the ins and outs of everything that goes on. So having that person that's close to that leadership team can educate them on, you know, what doesn't need to happen, like you said, for a brand new product launch. Like, you can't just launch a product and say, here you go, or, you know, something similar. There are all these, you know, all these steps that have to be taken to get that to fruition, right?
For sure. Yeah.
And, you know, so I guess, you know, the next question I have, and we kind of talked a little bit about it, you know, in terms of the previous question, but, you know, what are some of the biggest things that can happen if you don't have, you know, a marketing person at the leadership table? Have you know, you've mentioned some. Are there any others that we need to be, you know, somewhat aware of?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have that person at the leadership table, you risk mis-messaging a product. You know, you certainly risk that. You also risk, you know, again, that single point of failure. If something happens to the marketing person, it's going to affect more than just the press release that was supposed to go out next week.
Right.
You know, oftentimes that marketing person is handling or, you know, managing an entire team of either, like, you know, freelancers or external vendors, or, you know, there's a lot, and that's great. That's their job. But it's, again, you know, that single point of failure. If something happens to them, you're at risk of dropping a whole lot of balls in the air, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's great. So switching gears a little bit. So, you know, we're both in the healthcare industry, and we know how quickly tactics can change, strategies can change. I think we probably have both seen it back in March. You know, everybody was gearing up to go to HIMSS. HIMSS didn't happen. All these, you know, plans start to change, and you see, you know, an evolution of tactics and tools and everything kind of change even in the last year. You know, so what is your advice for marketing teams or marketing folks on, you know, making sure that you stay on top of it?
I would say a couple things. One, carve out and prioritize learning time. Like, take time to every once in a while step back, evaluate new tools and tactics, ask other people what they're doing, call up your HITMIC community and say, what are you guys doing? Because this is, even if you're not in a global pandemic and you don't have to, pivot your positioning out of the blue like maybe a lot of us did in the past year, just to get a temperature check. The other thing is, like, value and listen to people younger than you. Like, it kind of comes back to the strategics and the tactical. I mean, if you've built up decades of experience in marketing, kudos to you, great job, that's great. You have a lot of knowledge in the space, but new tools, like you just said, are born every day, and you might not be learning that on a day-to-day basis. And you need someone who knows them, not just knows how to use them, but knows everything they can do. And, and then you work together and communicate a lot, and ask people who are just graduating with marketing degrees, like, oh, okay, what did you learn in school? Because when I was there, it was an entirely different story.
Right.
And be open to it. I think the other thing is keep your eyes and ears open, because to other industries, and look what other industries are doing, and are they using creative ideas that you never thought of before, or unique tactics. We actually, at Envision, we have a section dedicated to our kind of team meetings to disclose anything that you've seen in other industries that you thought was cool. Maybe we'll use it, maybe we won't. But that's, if you see something out there, like, we all jot it down and submit it in a little form, and then the next time we're all together, we go, let's talk about this, what somebody saw in a car commercial, or whatever the case may be. And would that work for healthcare? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But it helps you keep your eyes and ears open to new things. I think it's easy to get stuck in what you know. It's easy to get stuck using the same tools because you're familiar with them. It's easy to get stuck in email campaigns because, well, email campaigns are what we do. Be open to what other people are doing. And again, other industries.
Right. And, that is such great advice, because I feel, I totally agree. I feel like we are all creatures of habit, and, we have built up, all of this knowledge, but we tend to do, what's most comfortable, right? So being able to keep your eyes and ears open, like you said, and lean on other industries that are doing cool things that we can then replicate maybe in the healthcare market or the healthcare industry is something that, I think will benefit all of us, right? Which would be great.
I think so.
So we're going to wrap up here. We're going to end off with one question. So, if you could give one piece of advice, you would like people to remember most from our conversation today, what would that be?
I think it would be when you think of marketing, don't just think, oh, I get a marketing thing. You need to think three things. I almost said three things. Three things, Claire, three. You need the strategy and the industry knowledge. I'm counting those as one thing. You need the tactical. You need the how tools. And the tools don't have to be a really, really, really slick, marketing automation platform. The tools could be as simple as a bunch of Excel spreadsheets that you use to track metrics or whatever it is. But you need all three, and you cannot devalue any of them. And you need the three to work together, and acknowledge and know that, the hands of today are the brains of tomorrow, and let them and value them, and understand that the brains are nothing without the hands, and the hands are nothing without the brains. And you need that all to work together really, really well, not to mention the other little pieces, the freelancers or individual projects that you need to get other skill sets for. And that's why you need kind of the strategic to put the whole puzzle together, but you're nothing without the pieces.
I love that. Well, on that note, we will wrap it up today. Thank you so much, Claire, for all of your insights. It's always such a pleasure talking with you and, you know, getting your insights and having you share with the HIPMIC community. I'm sure they're going to eat this up. Well, hopefully they do. But thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Brittany. I really appreciate it, and just delighted to be able to connect again with the HIPMIC community in this way.
Awesome. Thank you.